Good evening, everyone. Namaste. Hi, everyone. Making our way into the space and onto the call. Again, our time for evening meditation. So, welcoming everyone to come and join, to arrive together in this way. Welcome all. Good evening, everyone. Namaste. So we'll just wait a couple minutes for others to find their way to hop on. So as we do so, maybe find yourself a cushion or find the chair. Get yourself established for our time of meditation. Hi everyone, welcome. We're just waiting a couple more minutes before we move into our evening sit, our evening meditation as we've been having every morning and evening for these past couple of weeks, and really welcoming you all to join for some time as we come into self-settlement this evening. So welcoming you wherever you are in the world to find a place where you might sit either on a cushion or into a chair, somewhere where you'll feel comfortable, relaxed, where you can reside. Hi, dear ones, so nice to see various hearts and faces as you're making your way on. Let's just give another couple minutes before we begin together. Welcome to everyone who's making their way, hopping on. Okay, so let's begin together. Let's get started. Let's get started in doing nothing. How about that? And abiding, resting as we are. So this evening, as we welcomed this morning as well, really settling into a reality that we already know, that is our very essence, our own intimate sense of self, truly, emanates, we could say, from a certain placement, a certain positioning, which as long as, and many of the great masters offered this, as long as we have this sense of inhabiting this physicality, inhabiting this form, there seems to be a certain location, positioning in this physical form that relates more to the intimacy of the self, the true self. And there were different words given to this, but in almost every tradition that word translates as the heart. That there's some heart beingness, a sense, a pulsation of aliveness, of truth that rises up, that seems to emanate and connect somewhere to the center of the chest. As long as, again, we feel this inhabiting of this physical form. Of course, as we come to know and recognize that we are not limited to, that consciousness is not just within the confines of this physicality, that really we expansively live in the totality of all that is. We recognize that, of course, we're not just seated here, but as long as we're here, there's something so intimately alive to resting in and feeling an embodied recognition, what we might call jnana, like an experiential knowing that at essence, the true emanation of life, of truth, of self-seatedness, arises from the heart, that there's some very specific wisdom to the heart. Welcome everyone as you're joining this evening. So happy to see you all. And so this emanation of the heart is nothing new. It's not something that we have to learn or something that we're hearing for the first time. Maybe the words are something that we seem to be hearing, but the recognition of it is something that we already know. It's an already known. You know, it's like the sense of being in love. Really that sense of intimacy with the beloved, even if it's in form, but anytime we feel in love with the moment or with another being or with the gift of life or the simple moment of seeing children playing or the vastness of a landscape, and we really feel that settledness in love of life, even in the simplest moments, most of us can say that we feel an intimate calling in that love that seats us somewhere in the center of the heart, something that we would call the center of the chest, something we would call the heart. And this heart in the Vedic tradition is called Hridayam. But really, just saying the heart, we know already that it's not referring to the physical heart, not even the energetic heart, like Anahata chakra. It's not referring to a energetic organ or an energetic placement. It points to something well beyond that. That yes, both has a localization, seems to have a positionality, and also is all expansive. Like the feeling that we are made of heart, that all beings are part of one pulsing heart. And if anything, I hope that this time right now that we have globally is also bringing a recognition of this for all of us, bringing an intimate recognition of the way in which we are all so deeply connected, and in that connection, really enlivening something in that wisdom of the heart, this organ of the heart. Like any organ, that organ can be alive and filled with vitality and vigor, or an organ can also be diseased or riddled with illness. And I wouldn't say that this transcendent heart, the heart of being, can be diseased, because it ever is. It's ever present. Nothing can touch it. It's unmoved by anything of the personal fabric. And yet, Hridayam, the boundless, let's say limitless heart, it can be veiled. And what can it be veiled by? It can be veiled by all the mechanisms of the persona, all the various conditionings of the ego that disconnect us from the well of heart beingness, that disconnect us from really lovemaking in every moment of our lives, being in love, being truly steeped in love beingness. Let's say it in that way. Giving words so often to that which is tasted and known is a limitation. It's like we all intimately know this as our essentiality. And then the pointings sometimes are just trying to use words to skirt around the reality of what is already tasted, what's already savored, to really remind us of the depth of our own beingness. So that veiling can occur for various reasons. The karmas that we come into this life with, whether we believe in that or not, or just simply some of the nurtured tendencies, some of the tendencies we learn to protect, to defend, to stay rigid as a personal structure. And I do this because it literally feels like that, like we're confined, refined into a certain personality, right? We've constructed, curated something. And that curation, that cultivation of the personality, we both come with it into this life, seemingly. We have little, differences in our tendencies and our personalities, but we also condition a lot of this. We also really cultivate a lot of this. And often it protects us from the depths of our own untethered heart, of that heart that is vastly transparent to all that is, that needs no protection whatsoever. And yet, even if those veils are there, as we start to come or be called by the perfume, really the fragrance of the heart, to come home and be seated as we are, to be seated in what we always have been dwelling in, we could say, there's a noticing that this is much more the abode of truth. There's a certain fragrance then of everything being seen, received, experienced, tasted in love, and not as love as an emotive state, but as love being a true appreciation of the pulse of life, a true appreciation of every moment of life. This is really how the organ of the heart center, the organ of Hridayam, really starts to bask in life, bask in the reality of what is. There's a certain presence that occurs also as we sink into the well of our heart. Or the heart, we could say, because it's truly not owned by us. So in so many traditions, they pointed to the reality of this heart dwelling, this heart abode, so many different names given to it. And so again, this evening, our inquiry, the vichara, our atma vichara, our self-inquiry, will really be just simply exploring the depths of our own heart, which isn't some adventure that we have to go on or something we have to look for or activate or make happen. We discussed that earlier throughout our meditations together, throughout our times together. But instead, really, all it truly requires is an availability to what already is. So that availability, just as I just did this with my hands, can feel like a wide opening, an open attentioning, an open vastness to experience what's here already. Not trying to cultivate or make something be or fabricate. There's no requirements for there to be an enlivening of the heart. If we get quiet enough and available to what's here now, we'll notice that there's always this emanation of aliveness that we might call heart, or we might call self, we might call truth, we might call presence. There's so many different words we might call it. We might call it the Buddha nature or God nature. You see, each and every tradition had their own way, their own map of sort of leading to the treasure chest of the self, but the map isn't really the important. Of course it helps. The map helps to orient us, but more than that, the destination. And the truth of the matter is that it's sort of like a destination of no destination, because we're already here, so we don't need to get anywhere. That's the paradox, in fact. So the map here is truly to just be available to that sense, that pulse of aliveness that we already know, actually. To allow a great quietude to enter into some of those veilings, to give less attention to the mind and its thoughts and its story making, and instead to feel that background aliveness of the heart. So maybe that's enough words about it this evening, and instead intimately sinking into what is. And I would like to read to you a couple things this evening, really about the reality of the heart. And this morning we already explored together one of the gifts from the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. So this beautiful tantric text that, as I was sharing with you, I've been reading from this one, which is, the translation is called the Radiance Sutras. So I don't receive any commissions for this. Someone asked me today, do you have a link to this book, or not at all? It's just a beautiful translation of the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. There are various ones, and it's 112 pointings to reality, and it's a beautiful poetic offering. So let us come to hear this pointing. The heart of the universe pulses in all hearts. There is one who is the life in all forms. There is one who is joyful in simply existing in all bodies as all bodies. Explore the life that is the life of your present form. One day you will discover it is not different from the life of the secret one, and your heart will sing triumphant songs of being at home everywhere. The heart of the universe pulses in all hearts. There is one who is the life in all forms. There is one who is joyful in simply existing. This beautiful offering of the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. And your heart will sing triumphant songs of being at home everywhere. You see this recognition that the heart of oneness, that the heart of the self, the heart of Brahman, of pure consciousness, lives without any kind of partiality, meaning there's no separation. It doesn't live in some and not in others. That each one of us is animated by this great heart. Our very own grace of God nature is intimately here, always, singing those triumphant songs. It's a beautiful, poetic way of expressing the reality. Then I would like to offer you from the tradition a couple other inspirations that point to this reality of the heart. I've shared with you a couple times from Ramana Maharishi, from this great saint, Bhagavan, great enlightened being. He offered very clearly, by constantly meditating in the heart, that pure, unconditional awareness that is Shiva, that am I, that am I. Remove all attachment of the ego and rest only as the heart. And then from one of the classical yogic texts, the Yoga Vasishta offers, therefore, by the practice of merging the ego in the pure heart, which is all awareness, the tendencies of the mind as well as the breath will be subdued, and only that will be left. By practicing the merging of the ego in the pure heart, which is all awareness, the tendencies of the mind as well as the breath will be subdued, and all that will be left is that. So these beautiful inspirations of this heartful jnana, we can call it hridayam jnana, the knowledge of the heart, the experiential knowing of our own heart beingness, of the heart as self. So let's come to inquire. Come to find any comfortable position. And even let the sound of the bell be felt as a reverberation in the space of the heart. The bell calling you home. The home from which you've never left, in fact. And allow the eyes to gently close, almost the gesture of the eyes and the chin, in a way looking down into the cave of the heart, the guha, this dwelling place of the heart. And then naturally feel a welcomed softening, entering into the whole body, a feeling of melting. And in this light of the softness, feel also the following of the breath. The breath becoming more gentle, a naturalness of the breath. In its ever-flowing reciprocity, the breath in its consistent recognition of connection to all, of no separation, entering in from all of life and offering out in generosity to all beings. Feel that true intimacy that is recognized simply by being breathed. And then sense this calling to dwell at home. This soft landing of the heart. Literally allow the attention, the anchoring, to descend down into the heart space. This Hrid Akasha. Almost like an intimate portal to the very seatedness of the self here in the embodiment. A profundity of self-contact known here in the center of the chest. And let the entirety of the universe be known here, now. Seated in the truth of the heart, a recognition that this very moment is all that exists. And if at any moment you notice that there has been an eclipsing of the mind, stories or thought grabs attention, don't attempt to do anything about that process. Instead, with disinterest, simply return to what's true, what's now. Return to the great call, the resounding call of the heart, and stay there. Hearing the sound of the bell from and within the heart as it expands to be inclusive of all. Let us take a couple more minutes this evening in this effortlessness of heart abiding to naturally offer out the fragrance of the heart to all beings, this metta bhavana, this loving kindness, really truly a prayer, an offering of love, unconditional love, prem, great kindness, compassion to all beings. Feeling that emanation of the heart almost as though life itself, Brahman, pure consciousness, pours through the channel of this heart, and we direct it out to all beings. May all beings truly be at peace, be free. And as we come to conclude for now, there's no conclusion to this heart-seatedness. Staying here as we are, a feeling of being at home. And feel in this great restedness also an appreciation for life now, for being alive. And then remaining unmoved from who you are, from this residing placement in and as the heart. Let's start to gently move the body in one way or another that feels perfect now. And almost feel those movements as an expression of your heartfulness. And then similarly coming to open the eyes and let the gaze be gazing up and out from heart. Love and blessings to each and every one of you wherever you are throughout the world. It's always a joy to come together in these precious ways each one of these days. And we will meet again tomorrow at 7 a.m. and again tomorrow evening at 8 p.m., all of these Eastern Standard Time. And if you're ever missing the live offerings here on Instagram or on Facebook, you can always come back to them later, either on the Facebook, on my Facebook page, or you can go onto YouTube, Tiffany Nicholson-Smith. Look there, and all of them are also being posted there. And please, I request you also, if you feel that these would be of benefit to other beings at this time, this is the only Sankalpa, the calling, the sacred intention that they will benefit more beings to truly be at peace and be self-seated now, here. So please share them in any way that you feel will be impactful. Okay, love to each of you. Namaste. Have a beautiful evening, and we'll see each other again soon. Bye, everyone.